The building you're standing in right now might not have been built for you. The city beneath your feet, door handles so high your hands can't reach them, staircase steps that leave you breathless as you climb. Are all of these just coincidences? Or was there really something else that used these structures? In photographs from the 1850s, we see figures standing among normal people but twice their height. They're not in circuses, they're on the streets, wearing work clothes, working on construction sites, in administrative positions. So who were these giant people, and why were all their traces systematically erased? Today, we're pursuing a shocking truth buried beneath our modern cities. Perhaps we are ants who inherited the remnants of a giant civilization. When you look at archive photographs from the mid-19th century, you might not notice at first. But when you examine them carefully, you'll notice figures standing next to ordinary workers, their heads nearly twice as high. These people, ranging in height from 2.5 to 3.5 meters, are listed in records as giants, but their roles in the photographs contradict this. These aren't anomalies displayed in circus shows. They're people who appear to be a natural part of society, working as foremen on construction sites, guards in prison corridors, supervisors in factory buildings. Their clothes are ordinary, their positions official, and their expressions extremely serious, as if this physical superiority wasn't a disease for them, but a job description. According to sources, these figures formed the actual ruling class of a lost civilization known as Tartaria, and the name given to them was surprising. Operators. Because they weren't just physically larger, they were also people who operated, controlled, and protected a complex technological infrastructure that our modern world can no longer understand. Now let's look at the most concrete evidence of this theory: architecture. When you enter government buildings, cathedrals, courtrooms, and old train stations around the world, pay attention to the height of the interior doors. The exterior doors might be normal size, but the interior doors in the corridors are 4, even 5 meters high. The official explanation? To look magnificent. But is that really true? Why would a door inside a building be this high when it can't even be seen from outside? Or look at these stairs. In many old cathedrals and palace corridors, there are staircases with step heights reaching 30 to 40 centimeters. For a normal person, this means almost jumping with each step. But for someone 3 meters tall? A perfect stride length. What about the giant chairs displayed as decorative pieces in museums? Furniture with a seat height of 90 centimeters and a backrest of 2.5 meters isn't comfortable for anyone until you're 3 meters tall. Giant keys found at demolition sites weighing over 100 kilograms, door knockers too large for a normal person to lift, adjustment rods 4 meters long used to reach wall clock mechanisms. All of these show that these structures were designed according to the physical scale of their true users. But what's really interesting isn't just that these operators were large, it was their role in society. In the sources, it's emphasized that these giants didn't work in ordinary jobs, but rather held special positions. In construction site photographs, while ordinary workers standing side by side are carrying stones and cutting lumber, the giant figures beside them are only observing. Their hands aren't on tools, but on plans. This shows they were there not just for muscle power, but for knowledge and coordination. In prison photographs, there are 3-meter-tall guards standing by cell doors. In courtrooms, giant figures serving as chief attendants or building supervisors among ordinary lawyers and judges, as if these people were specially assigned to protect certain knowledge or operate a specific system. And right at this point, the most shocking part of the theory comes into play. Buildings weren't just structures. They were actually machines. According to the Tartaria theory, the giant cathedrals and government buildings we use today as museums or courthouses were actually designed as massive energy production facilities. The domes, towers, decorative-looking metal ornaments, These were all parts of a system that collected, stored, and distributed atmospheric electricity. And operating this system wasn't just about pushing a button. Harmonic resonance, frequency adjustments, maintenance operations, all of these required both physical strength and deep technical knowledge. This is why the operators were called operators. They were a knowledge class that understood, applied, and transmitted Tartaria's complex technology across generations. Their bodies weren't just physically larger, they had also adapted to the requirements of these systems. Perhaps this dimensional difference was the result of exposure to these energy fields over generations. Perhaps it was biological engineering. But the result doesn't change. These people were the backbone of a civilization that today's world can no longer understand. Now let's look at perhaps the most striking evidence of this theory: buried cities. In 1901, a great fire broke out in Jacksonville. Much of the city was destroyed, and during the rebuilding process, authorities encountered something surprising while excavating. Beneath the city were 1,700 separate underground structures never mentioned in official records. These weren't simple basements. Tunnels, corridors, and rooms built on massive stone columns, products of extremely complex engineering. And most interestingly, the load-bearing capacity of these structures was designed to withstand much more weight than the wooden buildings above them, as if this infrastructure had been built for a much heavier, much larger city. In 1898, Seattle experienced something similar. When the city excavated to level the hills, smooth stone foundations, sophisticated drainage networks, and perfect geometric layouts emerged from below. Official history says these were the work of early settlers. But how could such precise cutting and such heavy stone transportation be possible with the technology of that era? Moreover, these structures had the capacity to house much more than the population living above them. According to sources, the answer is clear. These cities were built to the scale of the operator class, and a global disaster occurring in the mid-19th century buried all this infrastructure under earth and mud. So what was this disaster? Tartaria theorists call it the Mudflood. Around the 1850s, an unknown global event caused a massive mud wave to cover the entire world. Look at old photographs. Buildings with their first floors buried underground, structures with mud filled in through their windows, places people think are basements, are actually the ground floors of old buildings. Official history explains this as natural sedimentation. But how could such a large topographical change occur in just a few generations? And why did it happen everywhere in the world at the same time? According to the theory, this event wasn't just physical destruction, it was also a civilization reset. The operators either died in this disaster or were systematically eliminated. The ordinary people who remained inherited the giant buildings but didn't know how to use them. Cathedrals became places of worship instead of energy stations. Government buildings were converted into courtrooms after their mechanisms were removed. Giant stairs and doors were explained away as showiness. And the operators? Their existence suffered history's greatest censorship. In the Smithsonian Institution's archives, there are newspaper reports about thousands of giant skeletons being found throughout the 19th century. Ohio, Wisconsin, Nevada. From every state, skeletons 2.5 to 3.5 meters tall were excavated. But today, none of these skeletons are displayed in museums. The official explanation? Incorrect measurements, or fraud. But how could incorrect measurements be made so consistently in so many places? According to sources, these skeletons were deliberately hidden, because their existence would collapse official histories, progress, narrative. If there was a class physically and technologically superior to us in the 19th century, then the story of modern civilization's development becomes a lie. Perhaps we're not experiencing progress, but regression. Perhaps today's technology is a weak echo of a civilization we lost. And right here, everything connects. The operators weren't just giant people. They were a class that carried Tartaria's knowledge, operated its technology, and protected it across generations. Without them, the giant buildings became mere empty shells. Energy systems stopped working. Knowledge was lost. And the remaining humanity began to live like a small survivor community, lost inside this giant legacy. Perhaps everything we call antique today is actually a remnant of a past that doesn't belong to us. Perhaps the cities beneath our feet really were designed for them, not for us. And perhaps history's greatest secret is why and how these operators were destroyed. Because erasing them wasn't just about destroying a class. It was about erasing an entire civilization's knowledge, technology, and memory. So who did this? Why did they do it? And most importantly, are those who continue to hide this knowledge still among us today?